up? I got Naskin here with me. This ain't a diss song, but yeah, you know what it is. I'm a cheesehead, y'all niggas cheese whiz. Pittsburgh Steelers, that's nothing. That Super Bowl ring, that's nothing. Pull up in your town when you.
How's the foot?
I'm walking, so it's getting better. Hopefully get out of this boot here in the next couple weeks.
Are you going to be in the cart again to start camp, Matt?
You know, I think it definitely is a little bit easier to transition in between drills and whatnot, so there will be a cart out there, but you'll see me in the mix a little bit more. I won't be covering anybody or doing any of the stuff that I was doing previous, but hopefully that's only a matter of time.
Coach, can you just share the Mike Daniels release that we are privy to?
Sure, yeah. You know, Brian will get into that later on today. He's got to do the shareholder meeting right now, so but he'll get into that this afternoon.
What's your reaction?
You know, I've been around Mike for a short period of time. I know he's meant a lot to this community. He's meant a lot to this football team. Obviously, you know, having to prepare for him in the past, I still think he's a really good player. You know, and I wish him well. But we feel really, really good about the group that we have, you know, with Kenny Clark, with Lancaster, Lowry, Montravius Adams, Kiki, and then and Fadal Brown, and just some of the versatility that, like, Rashawn and Zadarius bring to us. So we feel like we have a group in place that can get the job done.
You called him a really good player. Were you involved at all in the conversation to release him? I mean, you're the first-time head coach. You know, you want to keep really good players, I would think.
Yeah, you always want to keep good players. You know, unfortunately, that's part of this business. There's tough decisions that you have to make, and the one thing about Goody and myself is we're in constant communication on a daily basis. So there's never a decision that's made personnel-wise that's a surprise to me.
How long do you anticipate Savage to be out?
You know what? We're anticipating him to be going tomorrow. So that's kind of a day-by-day thing, just to see how he feels.
Hey Matt, as you kind of get used to this defensive line now, what do you think Lowry gives you, and what does that mean to kind of have him locked up now for foreseeable future?
Well, just like we talked about, you know, it's always good when you get a guy in here and you can reward him. He's played at a high level, and he's just about all the right things that you want in a player. He's a team guy. He gives great effort every day. He's reliable, accountable. I love the energy he brings to the defense, and you know, from my perspective, I'm just happy that we got him locked up for 4 years.
You've added a lot to the defense personnel-wise. It's starting to look like you and Mike want it to look, with the versatility and the size and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, I know we're really excited about it. Again, we're just starting off. You know, haven't had a practice yet in training camp with the pads on any of these guys yet. So you know, there's a lot of work to be done, but certainly, you know, it looks good on paper.
Matt, have you scheduled any live periods for practice? And I guess specifically when you join practice with Houston, will you have live periods incorporated there?
Yeah, I don't anticipate any live tackling to the ground. We'll have thud periods, but you know, I don't want to put our guys at risk with taking guys to the ground.
Matt, as you begin your first training camp, what's your biggest worry or concern?
Biggest worry or concern? Maybe the unknown. You know, you're going through this the first time, and you know, you try to prepare for every scenario that's going to come your way. But just like last year, you know, as a first-time play caller, you know, thinking back to that first game when in Tennessee, you know, versus the Dolphins, we had a 4-hour lightning delay that you just, there's just some things that are out of your control, and just from my perspective, it's always control the controllables and do whatever you can to try to be the most prepared as possible.
Matt, you've been in, I think, the last 2 years you've been with a guy who's been a rookie head coach for the first year, with Sean, and then
With Vrabel?
Yeah, with Vrabel. What do you think you've learned from that most, or what do you take with you more than anything else in starting out camp and starting out the season?
Yeah, I just think that did afford me a really unique experience, especially, like you said, 2 years in a row, and really 3 out of the last 4 years being with, first-time head coaches. So hopefully that I've been through enough experiences with those other guys that nothing will catch you for a surprise. But this is the National Football League, and I know that you can't take anything for granted.
You find you have to be really flexible, like some of the things that you plan aren't necessarily going to go just the way you want them to go, and that maybe you have to adjust a little bit?
Absolutely. I tell our guys, knees bent, head on a swivel. Just be ready to adjust at any given moment in terms of just our schedule, trying to keep a gauge and a pulse on our team and what we need as a team, and but basically every situation is a little bit fluid here.
Man, I know any team that has a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers is going to be an offensive-centric team, but given the experience that you guys now have on the defensive side of the ball, how much can you rely on Mike and those guys to kind of, I don't want to say carry, but help you along, early on in this season and this transition?
Yeah, I think this is what I love about football, the ultimate team sport. You really need all three phases. It's not just offense, it's not just defense, it's special teams as well. And I know this, in order for us to be the team that we want to be, we need all three phases to function at a high level.
Where do you feel like Mike and those guys are at in terms of just the second year of their program?
Yeah, I think, just the one thing I'll say is it is the second year for a lot of guys, but just like we alluded to earlier, there's a lot of first-timers in the system. So, but I just think just continuing to dig at the details, because I really think that's what separates the good teams from the great teams, is just the level of detail and the ability to function as a cohesive group.
Matt, in your years in the league, you know how important these preseason games are for evaluation, getting a third-string player 20 or 30 snaps on the field. So when the league talks about maybe eliminating 2 of those preseason games, how much tougher would that be for you as a coach to evaluate some of those players?
Yeah, I think you just have to adjust your practices accordingly, to make sure, just like you said, to make sure that everybody's getting the adequate number of reps to get a true evaluation, especially, you might incorporate some live periods or whatnot in order to satisfy that.
Coach, from the point you took the job to now, what have you liked most about the relationship that you have developed and that has evolved with Aaron?
There's so many things that I like about him. Not only from just a physical ability, but he is one of the most competitive players that I've ever been around. I mean, you can see it on a daily basis. It's not just on the field; it's in the meeting room too. And I just enjoy our communication. I think I enjoy the challenge. He's an extremely intelligent player that has played a lot of ball, and you better know what you're talking about.
Where have you agreed most within your offensive philosophy?
That's a very tough question to answer. No, I think it's just, the communication that takes place on a daily basis, and I've said this before, it's not necessarily about what I've done in my past or what he's done in his past. It's about how do we make this the Packers offense and us coming together to get us functioning at the highest possible level.
I know you have a Twitter account. I don't know how much you are on Twitter, but
Not much.
were you surprised at how much the Audible thing became a storyline this past offseason?
You know what? Nothing really surprises me in that regards. You know, I think anytime, especially when there's not a lot of action going on, you know, somebody's going to try to make a story out of something. But the one thing I'll say to that is, with the quarterback position, you're talking about, in my opinion, it's the toughest position in all of sports. And the last thing that we ever want to do is send a quarterback out there who's uncomfortable with what we're doing. And like I said, we're making this the Packers offense. So, you know, it is a little bit of a work in progress as we go through and try to find out what exactly our guys do well and make sure we showcase that.
Matt, in these first couple of practices, is there something you want to see, like a tone you want to set, or just an atmosphere and attitude that you want to get this camp started off with?
Yeah, I just think it's about our process and our standards. And really, you know, the best teams that I've been around, been fortunate to be a part of, whether it was, you know, high school, college, or as a coach in the National Football League, it's just, you know, they are the player-led teams. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, when the players set the standards and are holding each other accountable, so that's what we're going to try to instill here.
Matt, is there a benchmark at the end of camp that you hope to reach? I assume you feel like you'll be a better team offensively in October, November than you are in the first week of the year. But is there something you will know that will tell you that you're on the right track by the end of camp?
You know, I just think I'm a little short-sighted, I guess, in some regards. It's taking it one day at a time. How can we get better each and every day? And along the way, again, finding out exactly what our guys do well so we can keep showcasing that and do that to play to our strengths. Because this game's about the players. There's no doubt.
Matt, outside of Darnell, do you anticipate or know of any guys who won't be ready to go tomorrow?
Yeah, at this point, the thing is, we're still kind of going through this process. You know, we have our conditioning test here in a few minutes, and that'll give us a better gauge on who's able to go tomorrow or not.
You just talked about you're focused on today and short term, so do you even think about big picture, long-term goals for the season or discuss those with the team?
Yeah, I think you always have to have goals. But again, it's about our process, about improving on a daily basis. And, you know, you lay out, you try to plan out accordingly and lay a blueprint out, but you just, like we talked about earlier, you just got to be ready to adjust and try to figure out exactly what our team needs at, you know, in the present time.
Yeah, how big a deal is the actual getting on the field for the start of training camp? There's so many milestones, mileposts as you go along as head coach running your program. How big is this?
Yeah, it's everything right now, you know. I'm just glad I can walk, so.
Matt, do you feel like you have a pretty good feel of what your locker room is, or is that an ongoing development as well?
Yeah, I think we've got a pretty good gauge. You know, it's interesting when you look at the off season. You know, you don't face a whole lot of adversity. I think the toughest test is when you get into the season and you have some moments of adversity and how we respond. But I will tell you this, I feel confident that the character that we have in that locker room and how those guys get along, I'm really excited for what's to come.
Matt, you mentioned a few times work in progress, evolving, adjusting. That said, though, how do you feel about your playbook at this point, where not just the quarterback but the rest of the offense is with getting it, executing it, obviously now as it ramps up here?
Yeah, I feel like we did a solid job at laying that foundation throughout the off-season program, throughout OTAs. Now it's just, like I talked about earlier, it's digging at the details and making sure that, you know, we give these guys ample number of reps that they can adjust according to different looks that the defense is going to give us and so on and so forth.
Matt, you mentioned the Packers offense, I think 2 or 3 times, and, the fans are gonna wanna know, what is that? I think people are clamoring to know how this marriage works. Can you share anything about that? And, you wanna run the ball more. You've traditionally run the ball. Is the Packers offense gonna do that this year? What does it look like?
Yeah, I think it starts right there, we are going to, just a philosophical belief of mine is that you need to marry the run with the pass. And you want plays that play off of one another, essentially, to try to keep the defense off balance. But in regards to exactly what those plays are, I think, we have a pretty big menu, and we got to hone in on that menu. And like I said before, we just got to figure out what exactly we do the best and build off that part of the menu.
I just love my team. Yeah, that's the team with them big G's on the helmet.